This Family Life News podcast is made possible by the support of listeners like you.
Next on the 5 o'clock report.
The FBI has swooped in.
Without a doubt, this is a huge win for the Trump team.
Government shutdown, nobody wants that.
The labor movement here locally is incredible.
He observed a small aircraft crash.
This is a repeat offender.
Taxation without representation
Is correct.
Now, let's go to the newsroom.
Good afternoon and welcome to the broadcast. I'm Family Life News anchor Sarah Harnish. Choppers and a private plane, that's what it took to move Luigi Mangione. It was quite a spectacle to see today as the alleged CEO killer was extradited from Altoona, Pennsylvania to New York City.
We just watched 6 SUVs with the New York Police Department, lights and sirens on, heading out of the Blair County courtroom, which means Luigi Mangione is officially on his way back to New York State.
The mayor of the Big Apple was in Altoona, as well as a SWAT team with AK-47s, those SUVs, a private plane and a helicopter. Mayor Eric Adams not messing around.
We wanted to personally be here to show the symbolism of leading from the front of the apprehension. Some of these detectives will finally sleep tonight after this person has been brought to justice here in New York City.
Mangione's time in Pennsylvania is over, though the DA there said he will face charges from the Keystone State for his little escapade too. Blair County DA Peter Weeks.
We're not in the practice of just dismissing charges simply because someone has more serious charges somewhere else. That might be an older school approach. It might be a little antiquated, but I might be both of those things.
New this afternoon, he's not only facing charges in New York, but now also from the federal government. Legal analyst Caroline Polisi.
The feds, the DOJ, specifically the Southern District of New York, has come out with a criminal complaint charging Mangione with 4 counts, 1 murder, obviously, and they're taking over from here on out. The FBI has swooped in. He's going to be arraigned first on the federal charges.
The Ivy League graduate faces 11 counts so far, 1, a rare terrorism charge created after the 9/11 attacks. Another DA in the news today, a state court has removed District Attorney Fani Willis from the Georgia election interference case against President-elect Donald Trump and 14 other defendants.
We can say without a doubt that this is a huge win for the Trump team. Because remember, this was the last remaining criminal case against Donald Trump. Since his election, those 2 federal cases have wound down.
There's new information in the investigation into this week's deadly school shooting in Madison, Wisconsin.
According to the Associated Press, the suspect, 15-year-old Natalie Rupnow, had been in contact with a 20-year-old man in Carlsbad, California. Court documents show he was planning a mass shooting at a government building in conjunction with Rupnow. FBI agents have arrested Alexander Paffendorf on a gun violence restraining order.
The Christian school shooting in Wisconsin left 3 dead, 6 wounded, 2 critically. Congress has until midnight Friday to come up with a way to fund the government now that the previous deal has fallen through.
Government shutdown, nobody wants that, and certainly not around this time.
The president is silent.
Where is President Biden in all of this? He, of course, is still the president until January 20th, and yet you have the president-elect kind of leading this charge here.
Russian President Vladimir Putin held his traditional end-of-the-year news conference today. It was all about Syria.
President Putin said he had yet to meet with ousted Syrian leader Bashar al-Assad, who's being given asylum in Russia, but that he'd see him soon and ask for information about American journalist Austin Tice, who's been missing in Syria for 12 years.
Back at home,
united, will never be divided.
Days before Christmas, workers at 7 Amazon facilities are on strike after the company did not meet a Teamsters deadline to begin contract talks. It impacts Amazon workers in Rochester and Buffalo. Tim Barbetto is with Local 118.
The labor movement here locally is incredible. We have Teamsters in Buffalo. We have the president of the Rochester Labor Council here with a bunch of various unions, the president of the Building Trades Union with a bunch of unions, and all in support. It's great to see.
The FAA has issued a temporary temporary ban on flying most drones in several areas of New Jersey, at least through January 17th. The Garden State is ground zero in the recent uproar over these unidentified flying objects. The Biden administration is confident there's no public threat. And here's some good news. People are living longer. In fact, life expectancy in the U.S. is the highest that it's been since before the pandemic.
A report out today from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention found life expectancy at birth averaged 78.4 years in 2023, nearly a year longer than in 2022. Experts say some of the boost is a recovery from the big hit life expectancy took when more than 1 million Americans lost their lives to COVID. Overdose deaths also fell slightly. I'm Michael Kastner.
Still to come on the 5 o'clock report, plane crash in Aurora, New York. Bail reform front and center again after a guy with 17 arrest warrants targets an upstate New York school. And should homeschoolers be allowed to play in public school sports? Our own Greg Gillespie breaks that down after a look at weather with Kevin Williams.
Here is your Family Life regional weather forecast. So don't look now, but we've got some winter weather on the way. On the weather map, we're tracking a clipper system tomorrow and tomorrow night, spreading light snow across the board and serving as the conduit to carry the coldest air of the season to date into our region this weekend. So for tonight, a lot of cloud cover, a few flurries. Steadier snow arrives near Lake Erie late, low temps 20s. Snow tomorrow night. Generally, it's an inch or 2 or 3 of accumulation through the evening hours. High temps, upper 20s to mid 30s. Colder Saturday, sun and clouds with lake snows. Temperatures Saturday no higher than the 20s, and probably no higher than the teens on Sunday.
Thank you, Kevin. Checking the stories, making news where you live across New York and Pennsylvania. A pilot is dead after a small plane crashed in the town of Aurora, New York this morning. It involved a Beechcraft A-36 Bonanza, which was attempting to land at Buffalo Niagara International Airport after the pilot declared an in-flight emergency. East Aurora Police Chief Patrick Welch on the initial 911 call.
The caller did report that he observed a small aircraft crash. So our people, our detectives, our officers are on the ground working with other agencies' assistance, and we're interviewing the neighborhood, the callers, anybody that might have seen something.
The plane went down on or close to property owned by Buffalo Bills player Deion Dawkins. FAA investigators are working to determine the cause of that crash. An elementary school is now at the epicenter of the bail reform debate in New York State. Police have arrested 26-year-old Larry White, who's accused of breaking into Harvey Austin Elementary and stealing laptops, iPads, and piles of electronics.
Obviously, we're concerned about burglaries. We're concerned about, people's homes, businesses being entered.
White had more than 17 other warrants out for his arrest when all this happened. Buffalo Police Commissioner Joseph Gramaglia says it's been an issue since New York's bail reform laws went into effect in January of 2020.
This is a repeat offender. Clearly is a problem.
The original intent of the state's bail reform was to prevent non-violent, low-level offenders from sitting in jail.
Any, police chief will tell you there were provisions of bail reform that had very good intentions and needed to be addressed. What was not addressed was situations for people like this that are constantly revolving doors through the criminal justice system.
Gramaglia says bail reform in New York State needs to be reformed. Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro is weighing in on the landscape of college football. With its transfer portals and NIL money, the game has changed a lot in recent years. Shapiro says he has real concerns about the money and player involvement and suggests collegiate athletics is the Wild West right now.
What worries me is that these colleges and universities aren't homes for student athletes for several years, but rather for a season.
Penn State's backup quarterback says he's entering the transfer portal next year. The Nittany Lions are seeded number 6 in the college football playoffs. They host number 11 SMU on Saturday at noon at Beaver Stadium. Next at 5, our weekly feature, Faith Under Fire. Today's topic is, should homeschoolers be allowed to play in public school sports? Let's listen in.
Homeschool students and charter school students are permitted to participate in activities at their public school district of residence. So I'm permitted to participate in my homeschool district's activities, including extracurricular activities, co-curricular activities, tutoring, Spanish club, the band, soccer team. They will not permit similarly situated parochial school students access to those same activities. they've refused to let them participate on an equal basis. So we filed a suit in the Middle District of Pennsylvania, which is the case is the Religious Rights Foundation of Pennsylvania. Their parents and students named as also plaintiffs versus the State College Area School District. We've had an initial ruling from the judge in response to a motion to dismiss that was extremely favorable. The judge gets it, we believe, supported our First Amendment and 14th Amendment arguments. So we're set to complete discovery, and I anticipate that we'll have a final decision from the Middle District sometime this spring to early summer. And it's our hope and our goal that we'll be able to permit parochial school students, and as taxpayers and residents of these public schools, they most certainly should have the ability to take advantage of those opportunities and not be discriminated against just because they're seeking their education in a religious context.
What is the motivation? What's the contention that the school district has that says, well, of course we can't allow these students to do that?
The justification that they put forth was twofold. One, that they have enough students that are enrolled in their school district to fill their needs. And two, that if they permit a parochial school student to participate, they may take the spot of one of their students. That same rationale applies to homeschool students and to charter school students. Unfortunately, I think that's just an excuse. There's in my opinion, some open hostility towards students and parents that leave the public school system. Still to this day, I think there's a clear underlying discrimination against those students, that somehow there's something wrong with them because they're putting their religious beliefs above their desire to attend a public school district.
You can hear more of this feature by going to familylife.org. Just click on podcasts and then Faith Under Fire. Time next for tonight's market report, brought to you by Faithward Advisors. Wall Street is closing with stocks mixed. This comes after the Dow Jones Industrial Average lost over 1,100 points yesterday and closed lower for the 10th straight time. It was slightly boosted today thanks to chip-making giant NVIDIA. At the final bell, the Dow gained 15 points to 42,342. The S&P 500 lost 5 points to 58,67, and the Nasdaq fell by 20 points to 19,372. Faithward Advisors is a Christian financial planning firm online at faithwardadvisors.com.
Do what you can to unwrap the family finances this Christmas.
Hi, I'm Rob West with today's Faith and Finance Minute.
Christmas time often allows adult children to spend extended time with their parents. If that's true in your family, I urge you to seize the opportunity to address critical financial issues, such as wills, retirement funds, and medical care. If your family is mostly Christians, you can raise these matters as stewardship issues. If not, raise them as practical matters, such as, Dad, how are you and Mom set for retirement? We're concerned about you. Or if you're the parent, Son, I want you to have a power of attorney in case something happens to us. These are crucial decisions for parents and adult children, and perhaps more than at any other time of the year, this is an opportune occasion. Get biblical answers to your financial questions in the FaithFi community. Download FaithFi, Faith and Finance in your app store or visit faithfi.com.
Coming up on the 5 o'clock report, the 8th grader that blew all the gurus away with her knowledge of presidential elections. A win for junior high students everywhere. That story after weather with Kevin Williams.
Here is your Family Life regional weather forecast. So don't look now, but we've got some winter weather on the way. On the weather map, we're tracking a clipper system, a fast-moving disturbance originating in the prairies of western Canada, tracking through Chicago today and tonight. It'll be our weather maker, believe it or not, tomorrow and tomorrow night, spreading light snow across the board and serving as the conduit to carry the coldest air of the season to date into our region this weekend. So for tonight, a lot of cloud cover, a few flurries. Steadier snow arrives near Lake Erie late, low temps 20s. Snow tomorrow night. Generally, it's an inch or 2 or 3 of accumulation, generally, through the evening hours. High temps, upper 20s to mid-30s. Colder Saturday, sun and clouds with lake snows southeast of the lakes. Temperatures Saturday no higher than the 20s and probably no higher than the teens on Sunday.
Winter coming in like a lion on Saturday. Saturday. Finally, at 5, if the 2024 election taught us anything, it's the need for a better understanding of how our government works. And an Alaskan 8th grader has a hard-earned head start. Emily Brubaker won the first ever National Civics Bee in Washington, D.C.
Question number 2. What was the fundamental complaint that the American colonists had with the Stamp Act? That would be you, Emily.
Taxation without representation.
Is correct.
Emily's been honing her civic skills since kindergarten out of necessity. She was born with a congenital condition that affects her hair, skin, and teeth, and will eventually require expensive dental procedures which aren't currently covered by insurance. So she's been delivering pitches like this to federal lawmakers for years, urging passage of what's known as the Ensuring Lasting Smiles Act.
We need more advocates like you who can help get this bill passed, which can not only affect my life, but also many people's lives around the country.
That bill has passed the House, but still needs Senate approval. Emily won $100,000 in the Civics Bee, and the sky is the limit for her. She hopes to use that toward a college education to become a satellite programmer for NASA. And that's the world that we live in for Thursday, the 19th of December. I'm Sarah Harnish, and this is the 5 o'clock report on Family Life.
Thank you for listening to this Family Life News podcast. If you've been encouraged by what you've heard, please share it with others and click the subscribe button to automatically receive future episodes. Family Life is a listener-supported ministry. Podcasts like this are made possible by your financial partnership. Find out more at familylife.org.